Hello guys, and welcome to episode 16 of my business English series. Today we're going to talk about something that's really important. I think every time I talk about things that are important, so that's what I do. And so as I did in episode 15, I am going to start off by telling a story. Our focus today is the economy. I'm going to tell you a story about the economy, and afterwards I will give the essential terms for economy so that you can boost your vocabulary. Okay, so story. Once upon a time. So this is a real life story of my country, Nigeria. In the year 2021, our great country, Nigeria, was, trying to recover from the devastating economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. And I remember that my project or dissertation in uni was about COVID-19. And so during COVID-19, the world went through a hard time. A lot of people had their lives put on hold. Many were laid off, some got hired, some made quite some quid. Funny enough, like some people made some money. Some people made a lot of money. Some people lost a lot of money during COVID-19. So it was not one size fits all for everybody. Everybody had something. As a friend of mine will say, every malam with his kettle. Yes. Okay, so the demand for tech skills skyrocketed. I noticed during COVID-19, I tried to delve into a lot of things. I did HTML, I did CSS, I did JavaScript. I also played a couple of roles in the company, the startup I worked with during the time. I was a customer care representative, I was a social media manager, I was a graphic designer. All this within a really short period of time, and that was really stressful. So let's go back to the story. So after the pandemic, all over the world, people were trying to get back on their feet. Students were returning back to school, after being forced to self-quarantine or practice social distancing. Everyone was trying to get back to normal life. The government had, on their own end, implemented fiscal policies in the attempt to revive the economy and boost consumer demand. Let's look at Chike. If you notice in my story, every single time, from episode 15, I think, I always use Igbo names for my podcast because I'm proudly an Igbo girl. So that's what it says. Okay, so let's look at Chike. Chike was a young and ambitious entrepreneur who saw the time, the post-COVID time, as an opportunity to start his own business. And he was thinking of starting a logistic and supply chain company that catered, to the country's growing e-commerce sector. Now, the pandemic obviously had accelerated or, boosted the shift towards online shopping. And so Chike thought that he'd recognized Nigerians' potential comparative advantage in this space. On the other hand, he had a long-time friend and business partner called Amira, who had a lot of reservations about, Chike's aggressive growth plan. Now, let me just pause a little bit and talk about, the drive and the desire for success, in your businesses and all. Many times it doesn't come very fast because, how we just all want it to be is you just start a business and in the next 6 months everything is booming fine and you're like, oh my god, I am hitting it, I'm making the millions almost immediately. I hate to burst your bubble. It's not always like that. And so when you start in a business, learn to calm down, make very sustainable goals and plans for sustainability in your business. Make sure you plan long term. It will save your head. Actually, it would. So back to the story. So Chike had a friend called Amira, and it's good to just have one friend in your life who always tells you the truth. When your head is all over the moon, your friend can tell you, hey, sit down and listen. So So Amira, his friend, was a financial analyst, and she understood the importance of hedging strategies and diversification to mitigate or to limit your risks and to ensure long-term sustainability, or to ensure that your business is sustained for a long time. And so Chike took a business loan and had a strong understanding of the market dynamics. He hit the ground running and disregarded Amira's, caution, and she was like, you have to calm down, just take things this way, take a chill pill. But he was not listening, and it's bad not to listen because it can cost you a lot. So his company quickly gained traction, meaning that a lot of people were buying, subscribing to his business ideas, investors and all that. However, things started to take a different turn because Chike's rapid growth also exposed vulnerabilities. He had failed to implement adequate hedging strategies, leaving his operations susceptible to external shocks like fluctuations in fuel prices and exchange rates. And so the company's heavy reliance on imported vehicles and equipment also made it vulnerable to supply chain disruptions and changes in trade policies. And so in late 2022, Amira's warning came to fruition as Nigeria faced a sharp increase in inflation rates. Nigerian naira experienced a significant devaluation against major currencies through monetary policy adjustments, making imported goods and services substantially more expensive. Chike's operational costs skyrocketed, seizing profit margins and forcing him to raise prices for his services. And obviously, this in turn led to a decline in consumer demand. As the inflation hit, what happened was Chike had to survive, so he had to raise the price of his goods and his services, and it cost people to stop buying. It's just how it is. The more expensive your goods become, the less people want to buy. Except you have a very, very, very strong business, which Chike obviously did not have. And so he soon realized the gravity of the situation. One wise thing that Chike did was to really quickly realize that, okay, what Amira has been saying, have hedging strategies and seek ways to localize your supply chain to reduce reliance on imports, were actually sensible. So he started heeding those advices, and soon enough he was stable and his business did not crash. With the help of Amira, Chike was able to implement a more stable and resilient business model that was diversified, and also helped them to explore other opportunities in complementary sectors that were aligned with their long-term economic goals. The lesson learned during this is the importance of diversification and a commitment to sound economic principles in navigating the complexities of modern global economy. So Chike's initial reluctance had nearly cost him everything, but hopefully and thankfully for Amira, he was able to not drown as she saved the day. So that brings me to the end of my story. It was quite a good story. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did. And yes, so I'll see you in part 2, where I dive deep into business English for economy. Hey guys, and welcome back to Learn English with Ruth podcast. We're continuing from where we stopped in episode 16a. Remember, I told a story of Chike and Amira, who Chike was strong-headed and was heading for the wall, but then was saved by Amira. So today we're going to look at phrases. We're going to look at words and phrases, that are related to economics or the economy to help us improve on our vocabulary. So the first phrase we're going to look at is fiscal policies. So what are fiscal policies? Fiscal policies are government policies that are related to spending and taxation to influence the economy. Now, if you notice during the story, did I say it? Okay, but during COVID-19, the government had implemented fiscal policies, including stimulus spendings and tax relief measures in an attempt to revive the economy. If you remember, after or post COVID-19, the economy was really down and there was the need to revive it. The government have been trying till today to do that. However, fiscal policies are policies that are related to spending and taxation to influence the economy. So the next one is consumer demand. So what is consumer demand? It is the overall desire and ability of a consumer to purchase goods and services. So simply put, I can say that consumer demand simply means what consumer wants at that particular time and is willing and able to buy it. That means they have the purchasing power to buy it. Yes. If you remember that Chike capitalized on the surge in consumer demand for prompt and effective delivery of services, and that's what his business was based on. But then he ran into a loggerhead when it began to fail. Now the next phrase is comparative advantage. What is comparative advantage? It's the ability to produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost compared to others. Opportunity cost just simply means what you're giving up to get something else. That is how I can explain it in the simplest terms. So comparative advantage is the ability to produce goods or services at a lower cost, at a lower opportunity cost compared to others. Now, if you notice in the story, Chike recognized Nigeria's potential comparative advantage in that space or in that business area. So he recognized that and decided to leverage on it, because when you leverage on your comparative advantage, definitely you're going to make more profit. That's what happens. Okay, so the next one is hedging strategies. Now, these are simply techniques that are used to reduce or mitigate risk. Now, if you notice in the story, Chike did not have hedging strategies, so he had no plans for risk management, and that is like a very dangerous road to tread or to go on as a business owner, because risk is inevitable. So what happens when something goes wrong, or what happens when maybe you just run into debt or things do not go as planned? In order not to sink with the boat, you should have hedging strategies. Okay, so the next one is exchange rates. So exchange rates simply mean the value of one currency relative to another country's currency. So for example, in Nigeria we have the Nigerian naira, and then in the UK we have the pound sterling, while in the US we have the dollar. In Ghana, with the cedis, it's the value of one currency relative to another currency. One of the things you notice in the story is that Chike's business began to be affected when there were fluctuations in fuel prices, and in the exchange rates that made his business start to fail. Okay, so the next one is trade policies. So trade policies are policies that are made by the government that regulate international trade. So, for example, Chike's company heavily relied on imported vehicles and equipment, which made it vulnerable to the changes in trade policies, because if the government makes policies that makes importation higher, definitely whatever business that's based or whose foundation is strongly into importation will be affected, because goods or services will be higher, and so you're going to have to spend more to get them, and you might not make up the profit. So trade policies simply refer to government policies that regulate international trade. The next one is inflation. What is inflation? Simply put, it's a sustained increase in the price level over time. This is like the simplest. Left to me, I'll just go get an economics dictionary and come and read everything to you, but I can't really do that, so let's just go on. So inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level over time. If you notice in Chike's story, his business began to face its first major challenge, which was a sharp increase in inflation rates. Next one is economic diversification. So it means you're developing and expanding the economy through various sectors and industries. And one bad thing, one thing that can happen to a country that is not so good is a focus to just be on one part of the economy and not on the others. So what happens when that part of the economy begins to fail? People begin to suffer. So in the story, Amira emphasized the importance of economic diversification, but not just, within Chike's business, but also for the nation as a whole. Now, the next one is market failure or failures. So these are situations where the free market fails to allocate resources effectively. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut this episode, and I will do a part C of it so that you'd get everything I'm saying clearly, because right now, to be honest, I am awake 3:41 a.m. on a Thursday morning, and I am feeling so sleepy. So I'm like, I really need to go on sleep because I don't want to say rubbish. Obviously not. So yeah, so bye guys. So I will see you in episode C when my eyes are clear and my head is also clear. Bye guys.